Ruslan.
The year was 2017. I was minding my business as I normally do. Doing my, YouTube thing back in the day before I was really good at YouTube. And there was a song that came out from an artist I was actually a huge fan of named Random Thoughts 3. And Random Thoughts 3 was by an artist named Shylin, who's a super dope artist. He had a really fire album called Stories that I really enjoyed. This all got rehashed this week because Shylin, who I am a fan of and I have talked to, posted this tweet that I thought was really cool. And this sounds like something I would say. And I still, I agree with what he said here. And he says, any Christian who is thinking about publicly disagreeing with another believer should first read Controversy by John Newton. Okay? And he says, imagine what Christian Twitter would be like if we all took heed to this wise counsel. The Lord loves him and bears with him. Therefore, you must not despise him or treat him harshly. The Lord bears with you likewise and expects that you should show tenderness to others from a sense of the much forgiveness you need yourself. In a little while, you will meet in heaven. He will then be dearer to you than the nearest friend you have upon earth is to you now. Anticipate that period in your thoughts, and though you may find it necessary to oppose his errors, view him personally as a kindred soul with whom you are happy to be in Christ with forever. All right, so I'm like, yo, that's a really good quote. I love the quote. I think that's a fantastic quote. I've been a fan of Shylin for a while, and I think this is just my speculation. And Shy is always welcome to come on the channel. We could discuss this stuff face to face. If he's watching this live, I'll send him the link and he can hop on. He probably won't, but if he's welcome to. So I think this is my hypothesis, ladies and gentlemen. Vadi. You guys know Vadi. Vadi is the one that you guys always send me links of whenever I say that, something about racism. You guys are like, well, Vadi said racism doesn't exist and you're a cultural Marxist. Look at this Vadi message. Yeah, that Vadi. So Vadi, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, minister of the gospel. He's had some recent health complications, prayers up for him. But apparently Vadi released a book, and in it, he doesn't mention Shylin very favorably in light of kind of the social justice, cultural Marxism thing, so on and so forth. So I think this tweet, because a couple tweets before this, I think this is kind of like in response to Vadi mentioning Shylin. My prediction, I don't know. I could be totally wrong on this. Okay, I don't know. But I think that's where this is coming from. So all is well in internet land. And then the homie Derek Miner replied back with Derek Miner's a savage. He replied back with, does this include diss tracks? Asking for a friend. Which then just circulated a ton of back and forth, and what he's mentioning here is Random Thoughts 3, which I'll read you some of the lyrics. Random Thoughts 3, but we noticed a big shift in 2012 around the time Jackie asked me about Calvinism. Christian hip-hop found a different algorithm and crossed over without taking the crossover. And then he says, because brothers in your camp, this is about Trip Lee and Reach Records. He says, because brothers in your camp causing lots of confusion. I love them brothers as Christ, but not their conclusions. They want to reach the world, by all means keep pursuing. Tell me why they got to diss the church while doing it. And where's the line? And I ain't dissing them. My prayers like Boaz without Ruth is unity without truth. CHH is like gorillas in the mist with no brotherly love. It's like Philly don't exist. That's actually a bar there. It's a nice little double entendre. What's happening here? It's a different atmosphere. Cats appear more concerned about a rap career. Brothers overseas being slain in the sand while we're vain in our plans, seeking fame in some fans, and I ain't got time to philosophize. Satan got a plot devised. I'm seeing lots of guys apostatized. Okay, I'm seeing lots of guys apostatized. That to me, that bar is what for me really annoyed me, and it's two things. One, it's positioning the desire for a brother to build a career in anything, music, a business career, corporate career, a career as a lawyer, a career as a doctor, in opposition with following Jesus. I don't like that. I don't like that notion. I think it's a false dilemma. I don't think it's helpful. I think it's played. I don't like that. And then, but the deeper issue that really bugged me was the last line, which is, I'm seeing lots of guys apostatize. Apostatize, if you don't know what an apostate of the faith is a really lofty accusation. You're basically saying somebody's not a Christian. And he subsequently, Shailin subsequently, retweeted an article, which at the time, 2017, called Lecrae an apostate, okay? Basically saying Lecrae denied the faith and was an apostate. Now, this is before all the, the democratic stuff and stuff some of y'all still silly about, mad about, whatever, right? And so I fired back with random thoughts for Shailin. It's still on SoundCloud. Not my brightest moment, and I never talked about it, but I figured it'd be an appropriate time to talk about it because this all got rehashed. But it's the deeper idea is this. One is, hey, if we're going to disagree on wisdom issues, which I'm totally cool with, we could disagree on wisdom issues. We could disagree on secondary issues. Hey, we could disagree on Calvinism. We can disagree about being charismatic or not, speaking in tongues, whatever. If we're going to disagree on wisdom issues, like should a Christian rapper or a Christian YouTuber collaborate with non-Christians? Okay, hey, we could talk about the philosophy there, right? There are certain brothers that don't do that. If you go on my back catalog, I have interviews with non-Christians on this channel, and I give you guys a heads up, but there have been times where non-Christians on this channel, Windy Day, China Mac, have used profanity on this channel, right? We could disagree and say, Ruslan, that's not a wise decision. Ruslan, you're giving people a platform that don't know Jesus. Ruslan, that's not okay. Okay, we could disagree on that. We could disagree on that, and we could talk about it as a wisdom issue. Okay, we could talk about it as a wisdom issue. What we can't do is escalate every single disagreement to you're an apostate issue. Okay, we can't take every single time we disagree on the methodology issue, like should a Christian rapper be collaborating with a secular artist like Ty Dolla $igns? Hey, that's a wisdom issue. You can't take that and escalate that to, hey, you're not a true Christian because you've done A, B, and C. Hey, you voted for someone I wouldn't have voted from. Now you're an apostate. That's what's been happening recently, right? That's it's been happening recently. So one is, hey, we take wisdom issues. And we elevate them to heaven and hell, you're not a true Christian issues. That's not biblical, friends, right? And that sounds in contrast to what Shai's post is even talking about. Till this day, he still has Lecrae blocked on Twitter, and Lecrae playfully pointed that out. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is this goofy notion that you have to choose between having a thriving, flourishing career or between preaching the gospel. Hogwash. Hogwash, I tell you. That is utter hogwash. Here are my thoughts on it, and I'll talk about the nuances of this, but here are my thoughts on it. I said you don't have to pin your faith in God or proclaiming the good news about Jesus versus a career. You can flourish in both. This is one of the biggest false dilemmas in Christendom today. It's immature and comes from a scarcity mindset drenched in a self-righteous persecution complex. Construct your faith and your career as correctly as possible the first time. That's how we destroy the dilemma. You'll go on to discover, and this is a quote from our brother Jason Mayfield, money is a terrible master, but a great servant. Money is a terrible master, but a great servant. A thriving career can be an amazing tool to preach and contextualize the gospel. Okay? That's a fact. That's a fact. We look at success, we look at money, we look at influence, and we do one of two things. We escalate it to the degree of God and idolatry, and many people lose their identity in it, or we discard it and say it's completely, utterly evil. We say it's evil, it's bad. So it's either an idol or we're beyond being successful in the marketplace. We're beyond having a career. We're beyond infiltrating different markets, whether that's entertainment, YouTube, corporate world. We're beyond. So it's either God or we're above it, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's so evil. How can I do that? That is just you can't be successful in the marketplace and have a career. It doesn't make sense. It's a contradiction, right? And so instead of saying, let me slow down and let me see if there are opportunities that we need to redeem this, If there are opportunities we can redeem this, if there are opportunities we can receive a healthy career, depending on what you've built your career in, right? And so I think that's the more healthy option when it comes to this discussion. But of course, we don't want to talk about it. Hey, by the way, 51% of the people who watch this channel are not subscribed. So if you're not subscribed, consider hitting that subscribe button and notification bell. Now, back to your regularly scheduled program. And so, hey, those are my ideas in terms of that. And shout out to some of you guys in the chat right now. And folks are pointing out folks like Charles Spurgeon. Hey, if Charles Spurgeon was around today, he'd probably be worth $1 million by American modern day currency. That's an interesting notion. I've never really looked into it. If that's true, that's really fascinating, right? So I also know like Martin Luther had, I believe, his own beer business, right? Martin Luther, the great reformer, Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King Jr., Martin Luther, the reformer, had his own beer business. They brewed his own beer. So this whole notion that you have to choose one or the other, I think is hogwash. I think the goal should be, hey, construct your career and build your career, build your life, build your theology, build your marriage on the rock of Jesus. Build it right the first time. Build all of it right the first time. And if you build it right the first time, you will be fine. You'll be okay, regardless on if you're a millionaire, if you make $100,000 a year, or if you make $50,000 a year. You will be fine. When we create these false dilemmas and we create this unnecessary tension, we do a disservice to ourselves. We do a disservice to handling our time, talent, and treasure God's way. We do a disservice to the furthering of the gospel, because if you have the money, you can live out Matthew 25. You can live out caring for the widow. You can live out caring for the orphan. You can feed the least of these. You can clothe the least of these. You can visit people. You can live out these things, right? And they don't have to be in opposition. Just don't make your career your God. Just don't make money your God. Money is a terrible ruler, but is it a great servant? Again, shout out to Jason Mayfield. Hopefully this is clicking for some of you guys. And so, guys, I'm not mad at Shylin or any of that kind of stuff. I think this is, the point that I was hoping he would get is the irony that you would post something like this, a very beautiful quote about not judging people and this whole deal. Awesome. Yes, I'm with you, brother. But how do you not see the irony of that in the way you came at Lecrae and all of Christian hip hop, especially when I have a relationship with him? And at the time I was doing primarily secular college shows, and I would call him, we would talk on tour, and I'd be like, bro, it's so amazing. We just did a show with Farnsworth Bentley from Good Music. I was in front of 500 college kids. They rocked out. I shared my testimony. I was explaining these things to him in terms of, hey, here are the benefits of sharing a platform in non-Christian spaces. As a Christian, I think we need more of it. And it felt like there was progress being made relationally. And again, I'm a fan. Stories, one of my favorite Christian rap albums of all time. So all of this kind of frustrated me. And so unfortunately, I made Random Thoughts for not my most holy moment. Not my most holy moment. And if I could go back, I don't know what I would have done different. But I think these are healthy conversations that we need to be happening. I think a lot of this stuff also comes from some Gnostic thinking in terms of just wanting more knowledge, wanting more spiritual things, and denying the material and the physical world as a world that Jesus came into in a material physical body, that Jesus prayed, let your kingdom come, let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That was the whole point of the gospel. That if we look at the scriptures, there's a ton in there about, hey, he who does not provide for the needs of his family, specifically his immediate family, is worse than a non-believer and has denied the faith. That's in there. Hey, if a man not work, he ought not eat. Whew, that's in there. There's all kinds of stuff, New and Old Testament, that encourages us to be good stewards, honor God with our time, talent, and treasure. Book I recommend if you are overthinking it, if you have some wild tension or thoughts about success and all these different things. There's a book that John Acuff just released, literally like a week ago, called Soundtracks: The Surprising Solution to Overthinking. John Acuff's one of my favorite authors. Quitter was life-changing for me. And so I think John Acuff's but could really serve you some value. And it sounds like what you're dealing with is the issue of soundtracks. What are you allowing to facilitate what you're thinking? If you're looking at the world from a cynical perspective, if you're looking at opportunity, if you're looking at platform, if you're looking at success, all these different things, and you're being a cynic or critical about it, even on a subconscious level. This is something I struggle with, by the way, guys. You have to reprogram your thinking on where some of that stuff comes from. And a lot of times that just takes infusing new information, right? And one of the reasons why I don't even really listen to hip hop that much, Christian or not, is just because I want to always make the soundtrack of my life something that's going to push me back towards the main responsibilities of a grown man who's 36, a husband, a father of 2 now. I got a 1 week old, right? I think that is what I would say is like, hey, what is the soundtrack that's coming into your mind? What is the thing that is giving you the doubt? And a lot of us need to rewire our brain and reconsider what we've been consistently consuming. And when we do that, we'd be surprised how much of that can change how we operate. And again, it's not a money thing, it's a stewardship thing. It's not a numbers thing, it's a have you been faithful thing, right? Some of you guys think you're self-righteous and you're more pious and you're more holy because you've suppressed your gift and you've suppressed your talent and you've suppressed the opportunity, okay? And you don't really know wealthy, successful people. You don't really know successful people. You don't really know people who have done anything worthwhile. You just kind of know who you know, and you're going to be a byproduct of who you know and what you know, who you're around and what you consume. And if that's all you want for your life, I'm not mad at you. If you want to work a regular old job and stay out the way and, you know, occasionally do a little ministry here or there, cool, I'm not mad at you, okay? But if we're going to look at the mandate of what Scripture says, which is, again, go sit with Matthew 25, okay? Go sit with Matthew 25. You know, are you providing for your household? Are you working to eat? Are you being generous? If you're in that spot, if you're doing those things, cool. Ignore everything I'm saying. Here is the issue, though. Here's the issue is for everybody that says money's not that important, money's not this, money doesn't make you successful. Okay, the issue is the average American can't afford a basic $300 or $400 expense. The average American is living paycheck to paycheck, okay? I don't know how someone can have the capacity to go and minister as God calls if they don't have any margin built into their life. I don't know how somebody pieces that together. So what you may think is your lot in life. Well, some people are rich, some people are poor. Well, I don't have any useful skills. I guess I'm just supposed to be mediocre. What you think is your lot in life could maybe, I'm not saying it is, I'm saying maybe if you're of able body, if you're of sound mind, if you're in North America, maybe it's a byproduct of your responsibility and fear. That what you think is pious and self-righteous and I'm just, I don't want to be corrupted by money, maybe is a byproduct of poor stewardship and not being faithful with everything God's positioned you with, the opportunities he's positioned you with. And if you're okay with that, then that's between you and God. I'm going to call people to more. I'm going to call people to stewardship. Regardless on if you're going to have a 7-figure net worth, a 6-figure net worth, or if you're going to live a typical life and still live paycheck to paycheck. My issue is the folks who are the most pious and the most self-righteous are usually the person who buried their gift. They're usually the servant who in their self-righteousness and their caution and their pious nature buried their gift, and they think that, well, at least I didn't lose anything. At least I didn't get money and then become a jerk. At least I didn't get money and fall in sin. At least I didn't get, and I don't know if that's God's heart. I don't know if God's like, yeah, you didn't try at all. Good for you, right? Like, I think you're called to more, and I don't know what that is. I'm saying if the average American is living paycheck to paycheck, if the average American can't afford a basic expense, if the average American hates their job, if the average American is not content, if the average American is divorced, by the way, divorce rate, over 50% in America. Number one reason for divorce? Money fights and money problems. I don't know. But hey, if you want to work at a factory and live paycheck to paycheck and spend 20 hours a week playing video games and watching Netflix and not really making much of a dent in the grand scheme of things, have at it. I'm not mad at you. I want to call and encourage those people who want more to more. I want that for you. Not so that you can get money and it can corrupt you. I think you've created a false dilemma when you go down that thinking. Not so that you can compromise the gospel. I think you've created a false dilemma, right? I think you have to look in the mirror and take ownership. Have I done the very best with what I've been given? What are areas I need to grow in? What are areas I haven't been faithful in? What are character defects that other people point out about me, but I keep denying them? A lot of it is going to go back to self-control, discipline, lack thereof, not being kind, right? And that is how I would approach it. It's not about the amount. It really isn't about the amount. Not everybody is going to have a 7-figure net worth. Not everybody's going to have a 6-figure net worth. It's not about the amount. It's, do you just want to live hand to mouth? And by the way, if you come from money and you come from a nice, cushy, middle-class lifestyle and your parents had a trust fund for you and you got your college paid for and you've never had to struggle, yeah, this conversation probably doesn't apply to you and it's not going to hit the same. I'm not mad at you. This isn't for you. But if you come from the mud like I do, if you come from generational poverty like I do, if you come from lack of financial literacy like I do, and you're trying to figure it out, and there's a culmination of this subtle self-sabotage where you keep screwing up your own opportunities, you never follow through, or there's just this laziness where you don't even want to try anything and you rather just bury your gift. Listen, I'd rather you do something and fail than do nothing. And then on Judgment Day, God's going to be like, well, what did you do with your time, talent, and treasure? You will have to give an account. Yes, you will. Again, go sit with Matthew chapter 25. Really read that. Read 24, then 25, then 26, then just keep reading. That is my heart with this, man. And so at the end of the day, hey, whatever floats your boat. I'm not losing any sleep at night over this. I'm really not. I'm saying there's a generation of Christians that their life looks no different. Their life looks no different than the world. And I'm speaking to Christians, by the way. If you're not a Christian, this doesn't apply to you. Do what you want, right? I'm speaking to Christians who claim that the Bible is their authority and don't understand the parable of the talents. That is who I'm speaking to. The parable of the talents. By the way, this is this is applying to the last days. So if you're a Christian, this is for you. If you're not a Christian, hey, you're welcome to listen along. Okay? You're welcome to listen along. This doesn't really apply to you. Okay? Check this out. So Jesus talking about the last days. Okay? For it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to him his property. To one, he gave talents. He gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Ooh, to each according to his ability. Interesting. Then he went away. Okay? So hopefully you guys are following along with the parable and who's who in this. Okay? He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them. He made 5 talents more. Interesting. Oh. Okay. No more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. Oh, okay. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug it in the ground and hid his master's money. Now, after a long time, The master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you have delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have had 5 more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. Who's the master in this story? Who's the master in this story? Jesus is the master. Okay? That's who's the master of this story. Okay? Talent in this story is money. He's literally talking about money. That's what talent was back then. He's talking about money. Jesus, God, is the master. We are the stewards. And he who also had 2 talents came forward saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here I am. I have made 2 more. His master said, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also, who had received the 1 talent, came forward saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow. Okay, so whoa, this dude got an attitude on him. You peeped this? You peeped this? Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. This is really interesting. Reaping, God reaps where he doesn't sow and gathers where he has no seed. This is really interesting. So this is about leverage and leadership and delegation. Y'all don't want to talk about that though. Y'all want to talk about abstract theology that don't cause you to do nothing with your life. Let's keep going. So I was afraid and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. Here you have what is yours. But his master, listen up. But his master answered him, You wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gathered where I scattered no seed. Yeah, yes. God's like, yep. Yep, I reap where I did not sow. Yep, I sure do. You knew this about me. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers. And at my coming, I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10 talents. Woo! For to everyone who has more will be given, and he will have an abundance. Some of you guys are so afraid of that word. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast a worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Sheesh. The talents in this story is money. Okay? The servants are us. The master is God. Now check this out. This is where most people make the very, very simple issue is they stop there. And then they go and try to infuse their meaning on it. Oh, this is God's not really concerned how we handle money. This isn't really about money. God's not concerned how we manage our time, talent, and treasure. That's not really, God don't really care about abundance. They missed this next passage. Check out what this is all one stream of consciousness. By the way, verses and chapters didn't get added to like 1,000 years later. Okay? This stuff didn't get added till 1,000 years later. This is all one stream of consciousness. And then Jesus says this. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. Now he goes from parable to literal. Interesting. So he goes from telling you a story to a literal, this is what's going to happen. Before him, he will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate people from one another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will place the sheep on his right, put the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, Come you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will answer them, Truly I say to you, as you did to one of the least of these, my brothers, you did unto me. Okay. That's all one stream of consciousness. That's all one thought. That shouldn't be compartmentalized the way we've written these separate. That's all one thing. Okay, Matthew 25. Sit with Matthew 25. Really sit, read Matthew 24 and read Matthew 25. Everything he just described was literal. The least of these and caring for the least of these was literal. It was not a parable. That was literal. The parable talked about management, stewardship, handling our money God's ways, not being afraid, not bearing our talent, not bearing our money, not bearing our opportunity. That was a parable. This is literal, okay? This is a literal, he's being specific with what was happening. Clothing naked people, visiting people in prison, okay? Feeding people, okay? All of this requires what? Nice thoughts. We're gonna send prayers. We're gonna send prayers and thoughts. Requires prayers and thoughts. He's in our prayers and thoughts. We're gonna send prayers and thoughts. It requires prayers and thoughts. That requires prayers and thoughts. Prayers and thoughts ain't gonna feed people. Prayers and thoughts ain't gonna close people. Prayers and thoughts ain't gonna give you the time and the flexibility to go visit people in prison. When was the last time you visited somebody in prison? When was the last time you went and visited somebody in prison? You know what that requires? At least a full day off? Prayers and thoughts. But y'all want to talk about how money's this, money's that. Oh, you rich people, oh, evil. You don't know no rich people. Even the non-Christian rich people I know tend to be pretty generous and give a ton of money away and help a lot of people. So it's not about the amount. It's about, have you been faithful? Some of you guys are the person that was given 2 talents in life. Cool. Are you being faithful with the 2? Are you being faithful with the 2? Are you just sending your thoughts and prayers? 8 requires resource. How do we attain resource? We build scarce, useful skills to help people and add value. That's how you do it. It's not a mind-blowing concept. How do we develop scarce skills? We figure out ways to help people, and we do it with our skills and our time, our talent, our treasure. If you want to go deeper on that, I'll go deeper with you. Hey, everybody, almost everybody who's of able body and sound mind can clean. It requires 2 hands and 2 feet. Everybody can bag groceries. Everybody can clean. Everybody can bag groceries. So, is that a scarce skill? No. So guess what? That skill isn't going to pay you the same as someone that knows how to code, or someone that knows how to edit video, or someone that knows how to write copy, or someone that knows how to mix a song, or someone that knows how to do motion graphics, how to do 3D graphics. Skills that everybody can do. And I'm terrible at cleaning, but I can clean if I need to, right? They don't pay a lot. More difficult skills, more difficult things. I don't know, unclogging the pipes in an old building with the specific technology. I'm trying to get somebody to rerun my cable wires. It's a scarce skill. Guess what? I'm gonna have to pay more than $15 an hour to get that done. I'm gonna have to pay like $100 an hour to get that done. Okay? Scarce skills, develop scarce skills. If you want to go deeper, we can go deeper. I'll go deeper with you guys. I know we're getting really practical. If you want to go deeper, let's go deeper. Scarce skills that pay you, scarce useful skills, by the way, because some of y'all got some scarce skills. You really know how to play video games well, but you don't necessarily, nobody's going to pay you for that yet. You gotta stack that with an interesting personality, video editing, a cool OBS setup. But let's just go deeper. Scarce skills that you can trade results for money, not time for money. Where you can trade results for money and not time for money. See, when I make YouTube videos, I'm not trading time for money. I'm not. Because if the video hits the right retention level, this one won't, by the way, because I'm just going on and on. Because I really care. Like, I'm here because I care. This isn't a video that's going to make me a ton of money. But a video that has the right retention, that has the right click-through rate, that has the right time duration, I can spend 10 minutes making a video like that and it could generate me thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars. I'm getting paid for results, not getting paid for trading my time. When you're starting out, you just got to trade time for money. You got to work to eat. When you're building something, when you're building a life, you got to sow to reap. You got to sow to reap. Okay? By the way, if you're working and you're thinking about both, you're working on your work to eat so that you can have food, clothing, shelter. You're working on that, okay? And you're sowing to reap. You're developing useful skills so that someday, God willing, you can trade results for money, or at the very least, take the money that you made here and go invest it into something or someone, right? You won't have time to be running around here being a derelict. You won't have time to be addicted to drugs and pornography. You won't have time to trick off your 20s, partying and trying to fit in with the cool kids. You'll be out here focused on getting it. You'll be out here focused on hopefully being in a local church and serving that local church, learning scarce skills. That's where I learned everything. Literally everything I know, I learned from the local church. Believe it or not, it was an incredible incubator for me as a creative. That's why I encourage people to get plugged into a local church. Go to a local church. They're not live streaming. I'm pretty sure you could pull up to any church, almost any church that's not live streaming, and sell them on the idea of live streaming. Pull up, buy the equipment, learn how to do it on someone else's dime, and at the same time add value to the church so they could stream on all their social media platforms. That's a win-win-win-win-win. You just developed a scarce skill. Hey, let me run your Instagram for you. Let me take photos for you, right? So, I don't know, man. I read this stuff and I'm like, fam, how are Christians still getting divorced at the same rate? The number one reason for divorce is money fights and money trouble. How are Christians still in debt at the same rate, living paycheck to paycheck, living hand to mouth? Yet, we're in one of the most prosperous times in history. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you so much for hanging out. If you guys want to partner with what we're doing, Patreon's the best way to do that. Give this video a like, thumbs up, tell a friend to tell a friend. Guys, go, all right? Peace.
Yeah. I saw my mama smile through the silhouette. Sunshine and all. But she don't know that I still feel like we ain't made it yet. No, I ain't lying at all. I remember walking back from grocery stores and she would carry me sore. Muscles didn't mean a thing, we just had to see this thing.